welcome to this forum, again organized by the Global Supply Chain Council. Just give us 1 more minute until we get everybody joining us. So we're going to get started very shortly. If you are here already, just stay with us. Don't go anywhere, and we'll start soon. All right, I would like to welcome all of you to this Supply Chain Risk Forum organized by the Global Supply Chain Council. My name is Max Henry. I'm going to be your host today. Very pleased again to have you, all of you joining us from a different part of APAC, the Middle East, and also Europe. So some of you might know supply chain risk has been an ongoing topic at many of the events where we've talked about it, and we can talk about it even more. So we have, for this session, brought up a number of very interesting panelists coming from different industry and background and different countries. And so we are very excited to have, again, a new discussion. Just as a few guidelines, because we are, again, using our Chain.net platform for this event, you are going to be watching the discussion. And if you have any questions, you can click on the chat icon, which is located at the bottom right of your screen. And you can then type your question directly in the chat. We will prioritize those questions, so feel free, again, to ask those questions at any time. This session is recorded. So if you arrive late or if you missed the session altogether, you will be able to, again, watch it as a replay within the next 24 hours. So before we get started on the topics that we prepared and eventually take also your questions, I would like to get everybody to introduce themselves briefly so you guys can understand who's here as part of that forum discussion. So we'll start with you, Firoz. Make sure to unmute. Welcome you.
Hi, this is Feroz. I'm CSO of Delivery. I've been with Delivery, which is the largest Indian logistics company. And previous to this, I was in the police. So I was a superintendent of police. I'm actively engaged in all supply chain risk forums, whether it relates to cyber risks or financial fraud risks or supply chain risks. So this is the area of my interest: e-commerce logistics, cross-border logistics, and thank you very much for being part of this session.
Okay, thank you. Next is we have Devina joining us. Welcome, Devina. Go ahead. Yeah, make sure to unmute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Devina Raditya. I'm based in Jakarta. I have 30 years of experience in the sustainability and environment. I've been with Schneider for almost 9 years now, covering the global supply chain international, spanning from Asia Pacific, India, Middle East, Africa, and South America. My particular interest is on the supply chain risk, technological risk, and the decarbonization risk. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. We have Brett as well joining us. Go ahead, Brett.
Thanks, Max. Brett Marshall. I'm the former Vice President of Quality and Health, Safety, Security, and Environment for Zulik Pharma. I've been in that role for the last 10 years. So my perspective of risk is really from a quality risk management perspective, and I think that carries through into supply chain risk as well. Very pleased to be a part of this panel today.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Khaled also joining us. Welcome, Khaled. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Khaled. I'm currently working for Harawani Brothers. It's one of the meat manufacturing companies based out of Saudi. Before this, I had a few assignments with Mars Chocolate and PepsiCo. My main experience is Middle East, GCC, and looking forward to have a great discussion today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Khaled. Okay, Chang-Yi, you're next. Go ahead, yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Chang-Yi. located in Singapore. I'm taking care of the global sourcing for Alfa Laval. It's a pretty new role where I am in this role for the last 2.5 years, and previously I was more in the folders background for the last 18 to 20 years before moving as a shipper.
Okay, great. Good to see you. And then we have Farzana as well joining us. Go ahead, Farzana.
Hi, everyone. I'm joining you all from Singapore. I am currently working as a Senior Vice President of Operations for Drop Hydration. Previously, I have worked in various scopes of supply chain planning, procurement operations, capital investment in CPG and food and industries, including Unilever, L'Oreal, DSM, and Anheuser-Busch. My interest is sustainability. My interest is digital transformation for effective operation and, of course, risk management in today's ecosystem. Glad to be part of this discussion.
Okay, great. We have Rahul as well joining us. Go ahead, Rahul. Welcome.
Thank you, Max. Rahul Teotia. I've had various roles. I was the Chief Supply Chain Officer for APAC Group, which is a plastic packaging company in Australia. I was Senior VP of Supply Chain Management for ABB and for B Broad Medical. I worked in Emerson Electric. I worked across 3 continents, almost equally distributed among the 3 areas. 10 years each, roughly, 8 years each, roughly, across the 3 continents. My last job, which I recently left, is I was heading the global operational excellence for Ultra Clean, a semiconductor company based out of US. And I'm now transitioning into a new industry, it's life sciences, and we'll announce soon in the next few weeks where I end up.
Great, thank you. We have Dzulfikri as well joining us. Welcome.
Hey, hello, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dzulfikri. I'm Industrial Director for Saint-Gobain Abrasives Dimas in Indonesia. So I responsible for the operation for the manufacturing, supply chains, quality, safety. So my interest is to reduce the cost in any kind of the supply chain activity.
Great, fantastic. We have Sachin as well joining us. Welcome, Sachin. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks, Mac. Apologies for being late. I'm Sachin. I'm based out of Bangalore in India. Currently working with AkzoNobel. It's a Dutch paints and coatings manufacturer. I lead supply chain analytics and strategy team within AkzoNobel. Prior to this, I was working with organizations like Amazon, Accenture into multiple supply chain roles. Pretty excited to be part of this forum. Look forward to engaging discussions over the course of next 1 hour. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So thanks for the round of intros. So we have a lot of topics that we prepared, but again, for some of you who are just joining, we will prioritize your questions. So if you have any questions for the panelists, feel free to type it in the chat, and we'll take them as they come. But let me get started. It's a very complex environment that we are going through right now. We have a number of conflicts going on. Ukraine right, with Russia. We have a lot of things going on in the Middle East right now, and again in the past few days, it's been some interesting developments. And then we have the potential conflict between Taiwan and China as well, with a number of Asian countries being involved, like the Philippines. So, and of course, a lot of trade tensions going on. I just wanted to get your overall feel. How do you approach those issues in your supply chain? And what kind of maybe strategies you are adopting to be, to deal with those issues and potential conflict with your current organization. So just a very quick, feel and thought about what's happening right now. Yeah. Anybody would like to start?
So Max, I'll go very quickly. The what we have accepted is the change is the only constant. We are very much more data-driven, real-time data and clean data. We have taken an agile approach where we meet regularly with the teams and have a conversation cross-functionally. And we are investing in developing team to be more resilient, more informed, and tech savvy. So a few of the things we have adopted in recent time to adjust to the geopolitical and geographic situation.
Okay, thank you.
Max, I think one of the areas very specific I can talk about is the tension that's happening between China and US and the impact of that in our industry, the semiconductor I worked for recently. The challenge has been obviously that a lot of our investment had been in China. A lot of supply development also was in China. So we had put a lot of eggs in one basket. And with the tension growing, I think one of the lessons we learned is we've got to quickly diversify our supply chain. So we have diversified our supply chain in the last 1 year very aggressively to create 2 different supply chains outside of China. So we are supporting China manufacturing with China supply chain, and we can use it for export as well, as long as the market and the environment allows it. But just to safeguard ourselves and hedge ourselves, we have built up a supply chain in Southeast Asia, and we are also building another particular region so that we have the agility and resilience as things go along in the market.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yes, Max, it's Khaled here. I would like to have a build about Farzana's point. It's the changes, the new, that's the new norm now. I guess there will be no one solution for risk management across. I guess the solution will be how can we continue evolving and being agile, as Farzana mentioned, having better learning agility, having better problem solving as a skill to overcome the issues. So, especially in the past 5 years, between COVID, between the container issues, prices going up and down, inflation, geopolitical, there is no one problem to solve, and there is no one solution accordingly. So, the skills, agility, continuous learning, I guess that's the main skill that will help us overcome. And how can we keep our team on their toes just to be able to overcome any issues. Yeah, and I see a few questions now about the cybersecurity, the issues that happened in the last couple of days. So I guess this will be another challenge in front of our supply chain community in the past few weeks. In the coming few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take that question after that because this is again a very interesting and very worrying incidents happening. But I'll take someone else overall forward about what's happening. Anybody?
Yeah, Max, if I could.
Yeah, Brett, go ahead.
Thanks. I think one of the things, when I look at it from a pharma perspective, certainly the vast majority of medications that are coming into Asia are coming from Europe and the US. So I think certainly the Asia region is looking at approaches to building manufacturing capacity, and particularly in biologicals associated with vaccines. I think there's been a lot of focus too on the fact that because those volumes are coming into Asia, there needs to be resilience in terms of the modality of the transport. There has been a shift in time from air freight to sea freight, but each time they choose transit lanes for shipping product, because of the temperature sensitive nature of these products, then there's very strict requirements around shifting between modes. So it's really making sure that if there are existing routes by sea, that there are fallback routes by air that are maintained, so that if there's a need to ship product urgently to markets, that there's a position to do so as an alternative to sea shipment. We're increasingly looking at the potential option for the rail link that's been established between Europe and China as well, as that potentially expands down through Asia as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, anybody else?
Just to add, Max, that I think what we can do is to avoiding concentration risk, which is what I meaning is we need to split the facilities in not only in the one area conflicts, but need to have another area. And then this apply also for the supplier. So we cannot do a single supplier in this case, especially in the conflict area. Then the other is if we can do some localization, of course, it's better if you are not in the risk area. This is just to add.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Sachin.
I think there are a couple of solutions to this entire problem. I think we need to tackle each segment of the problem very separately or different in nature. Let's say in case of the supplier diversification is one, or going local for local is another, where what we as a company are doing is the countries where we are experiencing geopolitical tensions, we want to reduce the export out of these countries to the other countries and just try to go local for local, so that we are able to minimize the risk of it. Some of the initiatives that we have done quite recently is building the visibility into our supply chain, and then getting into more technology driven by adopting digital twins and few more technological advancement, so that we are able to prepare for these events proactively rather than reactively reacting to these events.
Okay. All right. So maybe I'll jump into and take that question right away because of course it's very timely. So Louis is asking, how do you think that the global supply chain will evolve into, especially due to the recent Israeli pager event? How can we, as a supply chain executive, prepare for it? I mean, so that's a very important discussion. We've seen those attacks being triggered directly on pagers, yesterday on walkie-talkies. And basically the ability for groups to be able to hijack supply chain, insert explosive next to the battery, and as Feroz mentioned, we have batteries in every device, whether it's your laptop you're using right now or your mobile phone, and this could be used for terrorist or for any kind of attack. So and nobody thought that this thing could happen at scale. There's been incidents like this before, but not at that scale. So what are you guys, what's your reaction to this? And are you worried about that new risk which could be happen in your supply chain?
Yeah, Max, I think one of the area that I can talk about, this example that you gave about Israel is really a question of counterfeit products. This is especially the one with the walkie-talkies coming from Hungary. And the question is, how do you know this is a counterfeit product or not? And that's where the technology comes into play. So blockchain, for example, in combination with IoT, had that system been in place, this would have been, there's been red flags early on to say these are counterfeit products. So there are technologies around it to how to manage counterfeit products. I think they're a bit expensive. So the question is how critical it is to invest in those technologies in your supply chain system. Some businesses make sense to do it. In some businesses, I think we have to still manage the traditional way. So pharmaceutical would be a classic example where you probably have to do it for many reasons. Security, again, is another area where if you have blockchain and IoT and RFID and QR all combined, this technology works. So it's a question of prioritizing it.
Yeah, Brett, maybe your comment on this.
Yeah, I think Rahul's spot on. I think that it is very close to the way that we manage the counterfeit process and the way that we ensure legitimacy of supply chain, and certainly in the pharma industry, there's an inherent risk at all times that counterfeit, falsified, substandard medicines can be brought into a legitimate supply chain. So it's really being able to maintain visibility end to end for the custody of the product. And again, as Rahul has mentioned, in many cases, blockchain represents an opportunity there. But it's really the visibility of the systems, linking the identification of individual units through data matrix codes and those types of things, and being able to upload that information and capture that data really from the time that it leaves manufacturing until the time that it gets to the end user, whether that's a customer or whether that's a patient.
Yeah. Anybody else? Feel free to comment.
Yeah, so real quickly, before COVID, we all know that how we always treated supply chain as a support organization, not a team and an organization and a function that is in the heart and the core of the business. And then COVID changed, the whole perspective on supply chain. Supply chain now is a name in every household. This incident is going to bring in renewed focus on the supply chain security and safety, and the need for investment. One of the things we are discussing today is we are as strong as our weakest link. The visibility and understanding of tier 2, tier 3 supplier network, and making sure our risk is mitigated, and identifying where and how, as Rahul said, through various technology integration and investment, we mitigate those risks. This is going to bring it to the forefront again. I'm very sad that it has happened, but as a supply chain professional, it enables me to bring in the conversation that investing into supply security is critical, and we are as vulnerable as anybody can be, and we need understanding and control of tier 2, tier 3 supply network.
Good point, Fazana. Yeah. Anybody else would like to comment?
Yeah, just thoughts. Maybe it's bits and pieces from everyone said before. Again, the incident will take the supply chain to another level when it comes to risk management. Before we were having the product traceability and product integrity, just to make sure that there is no counterfeit, just to make sure that if there is any product recall, we have that traceability to understand the root cause. Now it took it to another level. So having a normal household product weaponized, this, okay, what will happen next for medical? What will happen next to food? If there is any other, can be used. It will open a lot of doors for how to use a normal household product. Accordingly, it will put a lot of pressure on supply chain professionals how to make sure the integrity is end to end and having the right visibility to the end consumer. I heard a lot about blockchain's solution. I don't know if there is any yet feasible technology available, at least to not my knowledge. I guess this will be hopefully a good development for the technology. How can we provide a quick solution that make sure that the consumer, when he buys the product, make sure that it's legit, to make sure that the integrity of the value chain is good. I guess this will be the next challenge for supply chain professionals.
Yeah, Firoz.
Okay, as far as the government is concerned here in India, yeah, we are definitely looking at how people, whether it is countries or whether it is organizations who want to target, whether it is the Indian public or the Indian users. For that, I mean, I will not say it's the best thing we are doing as a country, but we're starting to put a lot of barriers based on products by insisting on what is called as Bureau of Indian Standards certifications and things like that. Now, by this, you are basically ensuring that the person gives you, if it's an electrical product or some anything which uses like a battery or electrical systems, then you have to give one of the samples, get it checked, everything gets checked through these standards, and then it gets certified. But then all that will get very complicated, is going to lead to a lot of trade barriers, and if every country starts doing it, probably we're going to end up with losing efficiencies which are available in the supply chain system, unless we use the efficiency in the supply chain, like a particular country or a particular company can manufacture something at a good this thing. How do we use it efficiently? That will start going away. So I would urge everyone to think of what would be the best ways to be able to collaborate, so that we have global standards and we are able to accept those standards. There are various companies which do quality testing and things like that, and those should be the norms rather than individual countries putting their barriers around products. Thank you.
Makes sense. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So let's move on again. We have another comment and question from Shanda, who's asking, with technology and intelligence of warfare, we changed the war scenario last week. What is the implication to world supply chain at large? This is a question in the chat. You guys can say it. Anybody who would like to respond to it? Or comment? Quick.
Well, definitely. I mean, anything related to anything which has a radio frequency attached to it, or a battery attached to it, or something which can explode. Well, it's all going to get. Every government is going to start looking at it with a laser sharp focus. There's absolutely no doubts. We're going to have so many products being stuck in so many countries' customs because the government is absolutely not sure of who is the supplier and things like that. This will definitely lead to some chaos in the whole supply chain system, particularly relating to telecom. I can definitely say, because the telecom industry is something where the cyber espionage also does happen. So you have this warfare, whether it's explosive warfare or cyber warfare. So both these aspects are going to be looked at. Apparel is probably the safest thing.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Just to add to that, Matt, Firoz is saying, with the AI and the focus on AI, and now the BlackRock and Microsoft investing $30 billion fund into this whole new technology. I think this whole concept with what we saw in Israel will take a different leap altogether. The risk that comes with AI, there are obviously a lot of positives of AI, but how do you manage and mitigate that risk? What kind of safeguards, guardrails you have to put in place? What kind of government policies need to be there? Should there be a government organization structure that manages the whole process, regulates the whole AI technology development? I think there's so many questions now up in the air that needs to be answered. So I think this is a big topic of itself.
Okay, I have another point. I guess this may trigger, as mentioned, that some companies or many companies for sensitive industries can relook their supply chain network, especially tier 2, tier 3 suppliers. This may lead to a lot of localization. So, especially for either sensitive when it comes to security or it comes to safety, this may lead to a lot of localization and bringing a lot of tier 2, tier 3 closer to home or closer to a controlled area. Again, that's in my opinion, that this action can be triggered.
Yeah, Fazena?
Yeah, so similar to what Khalid just said, we are doing the same thing. We are consolidating and kind of optimizing our supplier footprint. We were thinking about doing the segmentation, but right now it's in a fast track. That's one. Second thing, obviously, we are nearshoring as much as we can, what makes sense, which catalog, which product, when, and how. The last thing is in terms of our service network, IT and infrastructure service network channel partners. We are strongly evaluating their risk exposure and their capabilities. To a point, we want to nearshore or reshore them. What I mean is our cybersecurity provider, our cloud hosting companies, our IT infrastructure tool technologies and the resources, our channel partners, who they are, where they are, what exposure do they have. We just this week have activated a project to reevaluate and strengthen that scope if possible.
Okay, yeah. Brett?
Yeah, thanks, Max. I think, one of the topics we touched on was regulatory, the regulations that control the different levels of supply chain. And I think in the pharma sector, it is a highly regulated environment for all sectors of the supply chain, from sourcing of APIs and excipients, the inputs to the manufacturing process, right through manufacturing, right through the to-market transport, and then the storage and distribution inside the market. Highly regulated. But the world counterfeit market is still estimated by the WHO to be about $30.5 billion. So even with all that regulation in place, it's still, the risks still exist. And I think it's not just having regulations, but being able to really monitor the performance against those regulations. And I think in the pharma sector, we've seen particularly tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 suppliers, that's where the risk really exists. And being able to monitor those closely enough so that any changes they make to process or to product doesn't impact the overall supply chain.
Thank you. All right. Okay. So we also wanted to talk about technology, and because that's an important topic for a lot of people watching us. I wanted to get your feel. We briefly talked about it, and but I wanted to get your feel about the type of technology that you guys are using. AI, obviously, which has been a hot topic for the last year. IoT, blockchain. What kind of technology are you using currently to improve your supply chain risk visibility and monitoring? Can you share with us maybe some of the technology that you guys are adopting within your own organization?
Yeah, I can start there, Max. One of the areas we are so different technology for different application, right? So one technology, for example, it's we all know sales and operation planning and how critical that is. But if you take that SNOP to tier two, tier one, tier two, tier three suppliers and down the supply chain, and have the visibility and planning around it, that's critical. So you have to go beyond just your first tier one supplier to suppliers down the supply chain there. So that's one area we're looking at. We have different technologies in the market that exist from Access 09 and so on and so forth. There are many which shows digital twin and so on and so concept. So that's one area. The second area, I'll give you a very good example of IoT application when it comes to supply chain risk management. It comes in the packaging industry. For example, I used to work for Pact Group, and they make these plastic trays, plastic baskets that take fresh farm produce from the farmers. Now, if you put an IoT chip in those baskets and say that can measure the humidity and the temperature to see if the fresh produce is getting spoiled or not, and if you can track that all throughout the way until it reaches the retailer's place, gets consumed, and the trade comes back, the whole closed loop process is a beautiful example of how IoT can reduce wastage of food and also make sure that the quality of food going to the consumers. Another example in the power industry for IoT, power transformers. Power transformers are distributed across wherever the electricity goes, right? So how do you make sure that the transformers are maintained, the preventive maintenance around it? And the most important aspect of that is oil. So if you can put an IoT on the transformer, it's the case with ABB, where you could do the oil installation check through that IoT into your control room, remotely managed, then you can prevent the transformers burning. If that happens, then electricity is there. You can save a lot of money with regard to the electricity being continuously available for industry and for consumers as a whole. So there are many good examples of how IoT and these applications can be used for supply chain risk management.
Okay, interesting. Anybody else? Sachin?
Sure, Max. So first thing that we do and we did within AkzoNobel and within Amazon as well, we started a digital transformation journey that we started with the help of control towers. Initially started with logistics control tower, but eventually moved to supply chain control towers so that we can cover multiple facets of supply chain, right from procurement, ordering, lead time, manufacturing, all the pillars of the supply chain, so that we have a whole availability of data to take timely actions in terms of the challenges that we foresee in the near future. The second element, once we got into the digital transformation journey, was onboarding into different kinds of applications. So, what we did is kind of a risk assessment model for the critical components or high margin products that we need to ensure that we have kind of a insurance for them. So we started producing them in multiple factories across geographies so that we are able to maneuver quickly and we are able to quickly supply those products in timely manner. So that happened with the help of some of the tools which Rahul mentioned, using supply chain network design applications, so that we are able to map our end-to-end supply chain in digitally, and then we quickly run the scenarios. What if we move the production of critical components from A to B? What is going to be the impact on lead time, service levels, cost, etc.? And then quickly take those decisions. Last but not the least, and the most important, was using the IoTs. We kind of were doing a project for one of the cable manufacturers, and we realized that uh, operators had to go and quickly identify which machines are going down. So just to reduce that manual process of visiting each and every machine, we kind of started capturing the data from the IoTs and then quickly took the decision by displaying a data on the shop floor, like big screen, so that we know which machine is down rather than operator manually checking it 10 times a day. We have the data available on the touch of a screen. So these are some of the applications that we have applied across industries and geographies.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Sachin. Anybody else on technology?
Yeah,
Yeah, Sophie.
just to, I think in my side, especially in my organization, I think it's still developing because we are so concerned new tools under IoT, and then especially on the cybersecurity, and then need to very careful to go on the passing the new program on it, and then this one is need some time, and then of course we implement small thing, starting with the Copilot AI that can automate the office program, then using the Power BI to automate all the data, and then convert it in the good visualization. Also implement Industry 4.0. This is ongoing in my plan, but to be honest, that if we want to implement all the, because the choice is very, we have a plenty choice to implement this AI and IoT, but the thing is we have a team that are dedicated to check every single things on it in order that we are secure on the cybersecurity.
Okay, all good. Anybody else on technology?
Max, I can just add one more point here. Another good example is with the packed group in plastic packaging. With the resins that we purchase for manufacturing, we had this problem where it's quite opaque when it comes into the ship, the containers. When is the material going to hit the dock? When to our manufacturing floor? So we implemented a project with E2Open to get this real-time visibility of our containers. And in the containers, we could specifically figure out what kind of grade of resin is coming through that. And with the AI element to it, we could say predictive ETA for that to the dock as well. And that also not just helped us with planning our manufacturing and the rest of the supply chain, but also helped with demurrage, reduction in demurrage charges, because we could plan things better on the dock operations. So that's another good example of how technology can be used for advancing supply chain efficiency.
This is interesting. Yeah, Brett, and maybe Chang-Yi after you can maybe share also what you guys are doing. Yeah, go ahead, Brett. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're certainly in our business, we've seen an increase in investment in automation of facilities. I think prior to the pandemic, there was an arbitrage that could be made between labour cost and labour availability and investment in technology. And post-pandemic, that arbitrage no longer exists. So in order to be able to maintain operating facilities and make sure that you take the labour risk out component out of that, then there is a much more stronger focus on automation of high density storage systems, four-way shuttles, use of robots, and those types of things that is growing quite rapidly through the industry.
Okay, yeah. Chang-Yi?
Well, my side, I would say there's a mix of technologies involved, and also you can say the manual work to analyze or do the feasibility study together with how the current market is changing. So if you look at the suppliers or how we shuffle around with consideration of the trade war between China, US, or even the import tariff, we are also looking at shifting some products from China to India when it comes to manufacturing, so that we can leverage onto the so-called India setup that was not affected by all this trade war. So definitely there's some kind of data crunching and visibility study that we do, but not relying on AI at the moment. Then when it comes to, you can say, shipment monitoring or looking at the whole supply chain from raw materials coming into the factories, as well as the deliveries from factories to customer. We do have some kind of system integration with the forwarders where we receive the milestones or even the delay notice. But of course, I think it's a rubbish in, rubbish out. If the data are not updated correctly, of course, you'll get all the incorrect data in your own systems. But alternatively, I am also seeing that forwarders are going towards the setup where they also have the systems being linked to the shipping lines or the airline system or going through the third party to get a more accurate data. So hopefully, more and more forwarders will be doing that. Not only the major players, but also the mid-sized company. Then I would say that it will definitely reduce the workload of having people on the shipper side to manually monitor or relying on emails to chase for the status. Yeah, so definitely I see that technologies will play a huge part in the upcoming programs, and also especially when there are so many uncertainties around these days.
Okay, thank you very much, Chang-Yi. Fazana, you wanted to add something quickly?
Yeah, very quickly. After and Brett, something that came up, we are really looking into investing into biometrics identification, and also two-factor authentication across various processes and operations.
Okay, we have a question related to Firoz. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, with limited ability of small and medium enterprises to develop technology, I think what we're doing here in India, particularly with the Gati Shakti program, which is as far as logistics development here in India, we are working. I mean, something like 100,000 trucks is live on a portal, which is supported by the government and the corporates, so that you can see all the 100,000 trucks, and depending on the user, they can probably, if they have some goods to be moved, they can then connect with the respective driver or the respective owner of the truck and things like that. So these are some things which unless you work together with various stakeholders and develop platforms, because everybody trying to develop technology is a bit too difficult. I mean, it has to be a cross-stakeholder effort. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a related question. Shanda is asking, do you think control tower with technology-backed traceability will be a focus going forward? Any thoughts?
I can go on that, Max. I think control towers over the days are becoming quite an important element of the organization setup. I think by and large organizations are trying to move from logistics control tower, which used to be only delivery focused, to the entire supply chain focused. Right now, in order to have a successful control tower setup, I think it is important to have people across different functions like supply planning, demand planning, procurement, marketing, and different functions which are involved, just to have the more adaptability of control towers in the entire process. And I think control tower is again not a one time activity, it's an ongoing journey where organizations need to be focused and continuously stay engaged, because I think the journey can go from data to insights to alerts. So that has to be the journey of control tower from my perspective.
Yeah, I think
Brett, you're on mute.
Max, you are on
Sorry,
mute.
Max, you are on mute. Sorry.
So Brett, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think for sure that that control towers are going to be a massive focus for the future, and that the direction is to integrate not just the operational level risks, but now increasingly the global level risks. And there are a number of platforms that are evolving to be able to do that, and I think the potential is enormous. I think you combine that with digital twin capability and ability to test different scenarios makes it should give us a great deal more power in the future to be able to test scenarios before they actually come upon us, so that we're not caught by surprise when situations change rapidly. We develop that in-house and an innate agility to be able to deal with situations which arise, and it's really the technology that's an enabler. I think the challenge is the multiplicity of data sources and also the quality of data that I think we touched on earlier.
Okay. All right, so it looks like we lost Devina, who's currently, as you might have seen earlier, she was in the car driving through the Indonesian countryside, and she lost connection. So she will not be able to come back, but we'll make sure to invite her again on the next discussion. We have another question that I wanted to take, which I think is interesting. So Louis is asking, what are the pros and cons of nearshoring, friendshoring in APAC in the supply chain security context? Anybody would like to take that question about nearshoring?
So Max, from my perspective, at least I don't look at nearshoring, friendshoring from a security context. I look from a supply chain resilience, agility, cost context. From that perspective, the nearshoring where it makes sense to do, and again, it depends the kind of products you're selling. So, for example, in companies like ABB, Emerson, you have diversified products, and the products have a different context from a market perspective. So, if a product is very cost sensitive, I'm not going to do nearshoring, friendshoring. I'm going to go to the best cost country sourcing to get my sources, because cost plays a major factor in that product. Then there are certain products where lead time is critical. Speed is an important aspect from a customer perspective. That's when I'll scrub the bomb to see what I can do nearshore, offshore to reduce my lead time. It might be at the expense for cost a bit, but I might go region for region or local for local. So I think you need to start from customer perspective and do that, because nearshoring, friendshoring does not ensure security from my point of view. That's not the holy grail there.
Okay, yeah, Khaled?
Yeah, just one point to add. Again, in the past few years, its supply chain moved from like a cost center or a cost focus function to now we are adding layers. So, we got the learning during the COVID and the container crisis time that cost is not only the element, but there is another element of the service and the reliability of the value chain. And again, in the past few weeks, we got another layer, which is understanding the product integrity. So I guess going forward, it will not that sourcing and defining where to produce, where to get the product, unless it's very, very basic product, cost effective only, it will be multi-dimensional decision. It will be the trade agreement that impact the reliability and the service. It will be the landed cost impact. Also, it will be how can we control the value chain and making the full control or at least the full visibility for the product integrity.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, Farzana?
Yeah, I fully agree with what Rahul and Khaled said. I just want to add one topic, mostly on the calm side. Nearshoring, reshoring has quite a bit of upfront cost and potential disruption to existing supply and the demand management. So while selecting what we nearshore, when we nearshore, and how we nearshore, it's very critical to understand, is it worthwhile, that upfront investment and potential disruption? And that is critical in making the decision, because not everything needs to be nearshored and reshored. And I agree with what Khaled said. What are some of the parameters? The last thing that I want to add, whether or not we nearshore, reshore, business continuity and contingency plan, which is a supply security through alternate sources, is critical. So we may nearshore, but having an alternate supply is critical for long-term resilience and contingency planning.
Okay, yeah, Dzulfikri?
Yeah, Just to add, I think most of the comment I think is correct, but both this methodology have some, despite we have some, of course, saving from the transportation costs, close distance, etc. But I think if we implement this also, we have some risk on the high level cost and operating cost as well, because you can imagine if we're doing this in the Japan or Korea, it will be very costly compared with what we doing this strategy in Indonesia or in the Vietnam, for instance. But despite of this, also we have a risk on the capability. Probably when we doing this in the low-cost country, probably some of the experts do not have good skill to develop everything, and this will be creating another issue for this strategy. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we got 5 more minutes. We completely underestimated the time, and we had a number of questions. Instead of taking the topics that we prepared, but what I like to do is maybe get from each of you in the next 5 minutes, you advise, if you had one advice to give to the people watching when it comes to supply chain risk management, what would be your tip or advice of things that you think is important to look at moving forward? So maybe you can think about it, and I'd like to go around the screen and just get your own one piece of advice that you're giving the audience on supply chain risk again. Anybody would like to start? Maybe Sachin, you go ahead and start, and maybe just give one piece of advice to the audience today.
Sure. I think the nature of the risk will continue to evolve as we go around the period. So, right, like today, some new threats, as we recently saw, something new can come up over a period of time. So, I think it's very difficult to control the risk or like completely eliminate the risk from our supply chain. But what we can do is we can mitigate the risk and we can plan better. So I think some of the strategies that we discuss, role of technologies, nearshoring, offshoring, this can be potential solutions. But the risk will continue to be there, and we need to live with it. So that's my only thought.
That's the nature of supply chain today, and get ready for anything. Firoz, what would be your piece of advice to people watching today?
See, some changes are definitely are going to happen because of the incidents which has unfolded recently. I think a lot of emphasis is going to be given on self-reliance. A lot of companies will be asked to at least partially build their products in the country where they are selling it. It cannot be just like a SKU semi-knockdown condition is what will be imposed rather than a complete import of a whole car which just comes in. So there will be there's going to be insistence on some partial self-reliance for any manufacturing activity. Thank you.
Okay, localization of manufacturing, very important. Yeah, Brett, what would be your advice? Yeah.
I think there's an old principle in quality called quality by design, and I think this applies to risk as well. That we need to, as we manage our business on a day-to-day basis, but also as we implement projects around infrastructure, systems, technology, process change, and even people, we need to build in that discussion about risk. There are formal risk assessment processes that can be conducted, but having that discussion at the very conceptual stage of whatever change you're going to implement, by definition, will help you manage whatever arises as you implement that change.
Okay, including risk right from the beginning. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Khaled?
Yeah, I guess one final piece of advice that everyone to get ready that whatever solution we are implementing now, it may be obsolete or invalid in few months' time. And I recall an example of this post-COVID. We said, okay, let's increase the stocks. Let's make sure that the business continuity is there. Let's buy raw material. Let's buy packaging and so on. Then when the inflation increased and the interest rate increased, it's becoming a lot more expensive to hold a working capital than even going out of stock for SKUs. So whatever solution, let's get ready that and let's accept that it can be invalid in a couple of months' time or few months' time down the road, and we need to keep evolving and keep changing the solution to adapt to the changing environment.
Okay, no solution last. Okay. Chang-Yi, what would be your advice? Yeah.
Just to keep it simple, I would say 2 points, which is always be okay. Never be surprised with new changes around the world, and always keep yourself open to new solutions, new things that's coming up. With this, whether it is warfare or whether it is new strategies from the shipping lines, airlines, or the trade wars, then at least you have a mental preparation for this. And if you are always be open to proposals, I think any kind of solution would be beneficial for you to analyze. If you close the door for new solutions or crazy ideas, then it will make yourself tougher as well.
Of course, yeah. Good point, yeah. Dzulfikri, what would be your advice? Yeah.
Yeah, I think supply chain operation is always there is a threat behind. We doing that impact to others. So that's why what we need is to have a good framework in order that we are able to withstand the disturbance while we still keep running the existing operation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rahul?
Yeah, I think the first point to answer in this kind of question is what is the business problem you're trying to solve? Because there's no one size fit all solution here. But I think the foundation of all of this is people. And I think what we have to do is invest in people, invest in talent. And we got to get people more supply chain educated who are not transactional or tactical in nature. In today's environment, the supply chain people are best suited to become CEOs of the company because they know cross-functionally what's happening across the company end to end. Not sales guys, not manufacturing guys, end-to-end supply chain guys. So I think investing in the right talent and uplifting the people, that would be my topmost priority.
Good point. And then on this topic, we'll be organizing an event on October 17. It's called the War of the Supply Chain Talent. So if you're interested in the topic, join us again on October 17. Farzana, you are give us your final thought on supply chain risk and what people should look into. Yeah.
I 200% agree with Rahul. People. Select, build, and upskill your people so that they can take the right decision with agility, take the right decision based on data, take the right decision together collaboratively, and use tech to really respond super fast. People.
Okay, great. Thank you very much again for sharing your insights. Thanks, Sachin, Firoz, Brett, Khaled, Chang-Yi, Farzana, Rahul, and Dzulfikri for being with us today. This was, by the way, just our first time that we actually host an event directly on Chain.net, so we're very excited about it. We had a number of people who were struggling connecting today, but it's okay. We recorded it, and we make sure that we share the replay to those people who couldn't make it or who had trouble logging in. We'll do this again, and we look forward again to see you on the next event next week. Just to let you know, we have Ask Me Anything on Wednesday with Daniel, who's going to talk about global sourcing trends, both in China and India. And we also have another event on Thursday focusing on managing procurement in price-sensitive environments. So that should be another interesting discussion. Thank you again for joining. Thanks for the audience for your questions. And we look forward again to see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.